Dakara Prasannam Remaswarupam Rajabha Yuktam Yogindra Nityam Bhavaloka Vaidyam Gurum Kripalu Pranamami Nityam. Kamyo Pasanayarthayan Tyanudinam Kinchit Phalam Swepsitam Kechit Swargamatha Pavarga Mapare Yogadi Yagyadivi Asmakam Yadunandanangri Yugalat Dhyanavadhanarthinam Kim Loki Nadamena Kim Ripatina Swarga Pavargaishkim Nama Kamalana Bhaya Nama Kamalamalini Namah Kamalapadaya Namaste Kamalekshana Yo Brahmanam Vidadhati Purvam Yo Vai Vedanscha Pranoti Tasmai Takvangha Devamatma Buddhi Prakasham Mukshurvai Sharanamaham Prapatti. Divine souls, before we connect to spiritual knowledge, I would request you to disconnect with the world. The word karma literally means action. And all of us are concerned with the subject of karma, each and every one of us, and at every moment. Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishthatya karma krit. Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, 5th verse. And we have exactly the same thing said in the Bhagavad Puran, 6th canto, 1st chapter, 53rd verse. No one can remain inactive even for a fraction of a second. That means we are constantly engaged in action. Action literally doesn't mean that you are physically doing something. You may sit down and just keep thinking, relax there. Excuse me, Beta, don't mind. You take one place because that will not disturb people. The subject is very, very serious, and if people watch each other, I strictly ask somebody to stand here so people don't come in. I'd never can relate to an arrangement where people are coming in from the front because I'm not telling you stories. No Ramayana Katha, no Bhagavad Katha over here. We are discussing something very, very important, and I want your complete attention. So whichever position is okay for you, just stand there, and I would rather you don't move. Okay? Yes, I was getting to the point that each and every one is concerned with action, and it concerns us every moment of our lives. In fact, this word karma has come into the mainstream of life even in the Western world. A lot of people talking about karma here as well. However, not many people in the West, I would even say India, know the actual meaning and implication of karma. A lot of people identify it with fatalism and then become very depressed. Well, we can't do anything, we are bound. However, the actual meaning of the law of karma is totally the opposite of this. It is through understanding karma in the right way and the due performance of it that we can be completely liberated from all kinds of pain and suffering forever. I would request people over here not to have a lot of movement. I just want 1 hour of yours, please. Because we will remain bound in this world. We are trying to find out the means of being free. So we need a little bit of concentration. Yes, I was saying that karma binds us, and it is karma that can free us, provided we are able to understand what is the right action we can perform to be free of this bondage forever. As you know, the doctrine of karma is law of cause and effect. Each and every human being is free to perform action, and whatever actions we perform, they produce results or impressions, and we have to work out the fruits of the actions that we ourselves have performed. There is no escape. In one life, we perform uncountable amount of actions. Now, some of these actions, due to their inherent nature, mature in this very life. It may also be the same day that you perform the action. And some of the actions, they are carried forward to other lives. The actions that are carried forward to the next life, that is called destiny. The action that you yourself performed with a freedom of will in this life, when it carries forward, it's not matured. So you have to go through it in your next life. That is what is called destiny. The Hitopdesh says, Purva Janma Kritam Karma Taddaiva Miti Katyate. What you have performed in your previous life, the freedom of will, the same thing is called fate, Taddir, destiny in this life. It's the same thing. The name changes when it's carried forward to your next life. Therefore, we are all products of the past and we are producers of the future. You want to know what your future is? I'm sure you'd love to. Fortune tellers, astrologers, they are far more popular than people like me. I'll tell you what your future is. Your future is your past modified by the present. Simple. If you want to know what a person's future is going to be, look at the present actions and you can have an idea. This is what the future is going to be for the person. Because we ourselves are the shapers of our own destiny. We earn what we have done, neither less nor more. As you heard, what goes out, that will come around to you. It's like a boomerang effect, which ultimately comes back to you sooner or later. Now, as we discussed yesterday, God is in no way responsible for the pleasure or the pain that we experience in our lives. He is not responsible for it in any way. We ourselves are responsible. We must know what God's role is in our life very clearly, otherwise we are going to waste our life grumbling and moaning and groaning and accusing Him. That's what most people are about. When they find nobody to accuse, then they think, God has done this to me. He is very cruel, He is unfair, whatever it is. So we must know what role He has to play. Yesterday we began that, and I mentioned to you that it is He who gives us the power to do. Chetanana, consciousness. It's given from Him. So He gives you the power to do, then He steps aside and He is only a witness after that. Sakshi Cheta Kevalo Nirgunascha Shvetashvatara Upanishad Mantra 6:11. Karmadhyaksha. He just watches and there is, what a computer he must be having. each and every action of each and every minute of each and every human being. The record is there complete. 24 hours camera is there on you. Not like you have on the road. Motorway has intervals and at certain places where the speed has to be 30. So you know what to do. The moment the camera is not there, you speed up. But here it's a 24 hours watch. What we are doing. And after that, the record is there. He cannot interfere in our freedom of will. If he could interfere, if saints could interfere, we would not have been here. When a material father, he sees his child suffering, he wants to do everything that he can, isn't it? He would want to help. Then if we believe in a God who is merciful, why wouldn't he want to help us? But these are eternal spiritual laws that we have the freedom of will, and he can only help us out by giving us the power to do. Next, he gives us the fruits of those actions. The actions, many philosophers and many so-called religions, they say, actions produce their rewards themselves. But mind you, there has to be somebody who is going to coordinate all that. Actions cannot by themselves produce that. There has to be a power behind it. Anyway, that's a detailed thing. Right now what I'm saying is, it is he. Ishvara karma falya darshana. Nyaya darshan says that he is the one who gives. Oh, phal data hai. Phal Bhagwan deta hai. Achhe karm ka achha phal, bure karm ka bura phal. I know what you're thinking now. Well, if God is merciful, I don't mind him giving the rewards for our good actions. But my problem is when he punishes us for the bad ones, isn't it? That's our problem. How can he do that? What is bad, what is good? It's very subjective. Human suffering is not a sign of God's anger. It is our ignorance of the divine law. A lot of people who have experienced the purpose behind what is happening, they say, God does not bring you into hot waters to burn you, but to cleanse you. Just as, those people, is there any goldsmith over here? Gold is put into fire. Why? To purify the gold. That's the process of it. So this is a process which we may not be able to understand because we do not know the whole concept of past, present and future. But let me tell you a very nice story which will help you even in day-to-day life about when we may not know the purpose of what is happening to you. We see life from such a close angle, not from a broad spectrum. Our vision is very limited. There was once a farmer living in a village and he had one horse. One day it so happened that his horse ran away. So the neighbors came around to him and said, oh, that was a terrible thing to happen. We feel so sorry for you. We understand you must be very unhappy about it. And this farmer said, I don't know whether that is something to be sad or happy about because I don't know the whole story. Anyway, neighbors went back home and after a few days what happened was the same horse came back with 2 more horses. Wow, we were wrong about that. Good thing the horse ran away. Now there are 3 horses. They came running back to the farmer's house and said, oh, you're really lucky. You got 3 horses. We were wrong. That's something wrong happened. The best thing happened to you. The horse ran away and now you have 3, my dear. Aren't you happy? Again he said, I don't know whether it is something to be happy about or to be miserable because I don't know the whole story. Now, the two horses that came back, one of them was very rough and unruly horse, and the farmer's son was trying to tame this horse. One fine day, that horse just threw him off its back. The boy fell down and broke his leg. He was lame. The villagers came back. After all, what's happened to you, we are very sorry about it. We wish that horse had never come back. If the horse had not come back, then this would have never happened to your son. So, we can understand it's such a terrible thing. Again the farmer said, I really don't know what's good, what's bad. I don't know the whole story. His neighbors, the village people thought this man is crazy. I mean, every time he says that. Of course, they began to understand that what we thought was bad, it turned out to be good. When we thought it was good, it turned out to be bad. The next thing that happened was that country was under tremendous pressure from another country, and there was going to be war. There weren't enough people in the army. And the soldiers went around from village to village and forcibly made all the young people in the houses join the army. It was going to be a very bloody battle. The villagers were very tense, the older people, they weren't even sure whether their children would ever come back home. The soldiers came to this village as well. They rounded up all the young people in every house. But what would they do with a lame boy? So they left the boy with the father and went away. Again the villagers came to this man. At least you have a son at home. Doesn't matter whether he is lame. We don't even know whether we will have our children back. So again, I don't know the whole story. And that's the fact of our life. We don't know what's going to be beneficial in the long run because this earth is a school. We are all in a learning process and here to settle accounts. We have an objection to suffering, but listen to what Paul Brunton said. The sufferers of today are the seekers of tomorrow. A writer, Henry Beecher, said that God sometimes uses troubles in our life to fashion us. He uses troubles as tools to fashion us for better things. So we have to understand that everything has some lesson, some grace behind it, and because we do not know this, we look at life from a very narrow vision, and therefore we end up getting ourselves more bound by our wrong reactions to circumstances. So let us understand the present, past and future, how it is connected, this karma, in a little detail. Karma, the structure of karma is divided into three. One is sanchit karma, second is prarabdha karma, and third is kriyaman karma. Let me explain each of these three. Sanchit karma is the total balance of all the actions that we ourselves have performed through our uncountable past lives, which have yet not matured. The balance is unlimited. Sanchit karma, still there for us to work out. We have not worked out those actions as yet. They are called sanchit karma from all our past lives. Now, let me briefly refer to this concept of past life. There are past lives. The law of karma is the chain that binds us to the wheel of the doctrine of reincarnation. You have all heard about this, the doctrine of rebirth. More and more people are beginning to accept this because it makes life meaningful. We begin to understand the disparity and the inequality that we see and experience in lives once you are able to accept this doctrine of rebirth as well as the law of karma. Today we have plenty of evidence. I'm sure some of you must have watched programs on TV. There are thousands of people, not millions, but few thousand of people who have remembered their past lives, and it has been proved to be true. And you have these programs that come on TV, there are special institutions that are looking into this concept. And besides, we obviously have the testimony of the scriptures and saints. Bahuni me gatitani janmani tava charjuna tanyaham veda sarvani natvam veda parantapa. 4th chapter, 5th verse of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, I have had innumerable lives, Arjuna, and so have you. But I remember and know of mine. You do not know, Arjuna. Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuhyati. 2nd chapter, 13th verse. Just as you pass on from childhood to youth, youth to old age, in the same way, the soul also passes on to another form of life, acquires another body after death. It's the same natural process as our body goes from childhood to youth and to old age. A Western philosopher, William Jones, wrote about 2 centuries ago. He said, I am no Hindu, but I consider the Hindu doctrine of rebirth to be far more pious, far more rational, and far more capable to deter man from evil than the horrid opinions inculcated by the Christians about punishment without an end. You see, some religions, of course, I strongly believe that there is evidence of the fact that they also believe in rebirth, but as time passes, people misinterpret the truths and they say this is our first entrance into life and this is the last. How depressing it is. Suppose a person has performed 49% good and 51% bad. By 1% you're going to be doomed. That's not fair. You don't have a desire to do good because eventually you're going to be doomed. It's so difficult to be perfectly good. But this theory of this doctrine of rebirth, it gives you that incentive that gradually you can move higher and one day get out of this bondage. It gives you hope and it makes you understand what the present situation is. Now I know what questions I am asked when it comes to rebirth. How come I don't remember my past life? I know you will ask that, so before you ask, I'm telling you. What do they have, a stat party or whatever? That's not anything to do with India, but you want all of them together. Everybody does it, so I'm going to do it. Okay, if you're going to do what everybody does, blindly follow things, then Plato says you're going to become an ant in your next life. What? An ant? Yeah, bees. People who just follow each other. इसको हिंदी में कहते हैं भेड़ चाल। सब पीछे लगते हैं, कुछ सोचते नहीं हैं कि क्या करना चाहिए। What a waste. Let me utilize this time and money for something better. So, Kriyaman karma is possible only in human life, and that's why human life has been praised in each and every scripture by each and every saint. Bade bhagya manush tan pava sur durlabh sad granth gava. Even the celestial gods whom you worship, when you have a havan or a yajna, you offer oblations, whatever, to Indra, Varun and all these celestial gods, but they are saying how foolish these human beings are. We've got a human form. I wish we could have a human form. I wish I could be a human being. Why? Because in human life, we can get out of this bondage of karma only in human life. Remember that. That's why Dullabho manusho deho dehinam kshanabhangura tatrapi dullabham manye vaikuntha priyadarshanam. Bhagavad Puran, 11th canto, 2nd chapter, 29th verse. This is an extremely rare embodiment. Very special grace, very special karmas of your past make you a human being. This human life is not for eating, drinking, sleeping and mating. This is an opportunity to be forever free of this bondage of pain and suffering. This is your opportunity. And then experience unconditional, perfect, everlasting happiness. Only in human life. Only remember that. So we must be very cautious, very careful of what we do. Everything, every bit. Impression is there. I told you the 24-hour camera is fitted there and everything is recorded. If you sow seeds of greed, you will reap seeds of greed. If you sow seeds of enmity, of grudges, of negativity, that's the trees that are going to grow. And if you sow seeds of kindness, of love, of compassion, of positivity, that's what we are going to reap. What you sow, you reap. And these actions that we perform, I told you, we cannot go through it in one life, and they carry forward to the next. That is the important part. बहुत से लोग कुछ समझाओ ऐसा आपको करना नहीं चाहिए. This is not right. You shouldn't behave like this. Vegetarian, non-vegetarian, whatever, cruelty to animal. अरे देखा जाएगा. अभी तो हमको खाने दो, मस्ती मारने दो. देखा जाएगा. देखा नहीं जाएगा, भोगा जाएगा. जब भोगना पड़ता तो भगवान ने हमारे साथ ऐसा क्यों किया? ऐसा अरे तुमने किया, उसने कुछ नहीं किया. तो हम तुरंत उसको दोष, और जब कर रहे हो तब तुमने नहीं सोचा. The seeds that you have planted, if you have planted a seed that's going to bring a thorny bush, you know you have certain plants, it's called the poison ivy. Even catching it is terrible. So if you have planted a poison ivy, that's what we are going to get. So be very careful, be cautious about karma, because that's going to carry forward. I want to tell you a very, very interesting story, which is from the Agama Sutras, the early sermons of Buddha. A man, Indian person, many, many centuries ago, he had 4 wives. It was not an uncommon thing for men to have several wives at that time. Do you know in Japan, about 1,000 years ago, a woman could have several husbands. So anyway, let's get to the main story. This man had 4 wives. And he felt very, very sick, almost dying. He felt very lonely and scared. And he thought, I'm going to ask one of my wives at least to accompany me to the other world. So he called his wife and said, my dear, the first one, he said, my dear wife, I loved you so much throughout my life. I cared for you day and night. Please accompany me to the other world. I'm really very scared. The wife said to him, well, I know you did care for me and you love me, but I cannot go with you. If you die, our relationship ends here, so goodbye. He was hurt. He called his second wife and he said, my dear, you know, I loved you and I was always scared I would lose you, and I always wanted you to be with me all the time. So would you not accompany me? I'm dying now, I'm really scared. And the wife very coldly replied, she said, you cared for me for your own selfish interest. I know that. So if your first wife would not accompany you, how could you expect me to accompany you? I'm sorry, I cannot. He called his third wife to his deathbed and said, my dear, will you fulfill my desire? I did care for you, and you know that. And I feel so lonely. I can't think of leaving this world alone. Will you come with me? The third wife had tears in her eyes, and she said, I really pity you, and I feel sad for myself. I will accompany you up to the graveyard, and that's where my duty will end. I'm sorry, I cannot go. So 3 of his wives refused, and he was really lonely. The fourth wife he had never cared for. He had always treated her like a slave, so he never expected her to say yes, but he said, no harm, nobody wants to go, let me try. He called the fourth wife and said, you know, I'm going to die and I feel very lonely. Will you accompany me? She said, of course I will. I will go with you wherever you go. I will never leave you. I will never be separated from you, so don't worry. Now, who are these 4 wives? Each woman has 4 husbands and each man has 4 wives. What are they? Who are they? The first wife is this physical body. This physical body, we are so attached to it. We look after it. We are so concerned about how we look. Are we looking smart? Are we looking young? What we are wearing? Is it up to the mark? We are so concerned about the body, isn't it? So throughout our life, we have looked after it and it has been a part of us. But we all know that at the point of death, the soul is separated from this physical body. And what happens to this physical body? Either it is cremated or it's burnt. It's just a lump of ashes that remains of the body. So the body is the first wife. It cannot accompany us beyond the gates of death. The second wife? The second wife is our fortune, our money, our houses, our cars, our status, our jobs, all these material opulences that we are very attached to. Not only attached, we desire to have more and more, and we are always afraid to lose them. But when it's time for death, when death comes, all that we thought belonged to us. Yes, I've got the title deeds of this property, not 1, but 2, but 3, but 4. Ye mera hai. वो जो आपके पॉकेट में पैसा है वो आपका है, बिल्कुल मेरा है। इससे पहले किसके पास था? वो दुकानदार ने मुझे दिया। I bought something, this is the change I got. And before that where was it? It was in somebody else's pocket. किसी का नहीं है। जिस घर में आप रहते हो उसमें कितने पहले रह चुके, आगे कौन रहेगा पता नहीं। But we think this is my fortune, and then death separates us from it, and we have to leave empty-handed. गर्भ से न लाया कछु गोविंद राधे, संग भी न जाए कछु मन को बता दे. This is the second wife, all our fortune, all our possessions. Third wife, everyone has a third wife. What is that? Our relationships in the world, mother, father, child, brother, sister, friends. When a person dies, the near and dear relations, they are sad, aren't they? They cry. They accompany the person to the graveyard, and after that, it's goodbye. They don't go at all. And after some time, everybody forgets about it. Isn't that true? So, third wife is our relations in this world. Who is the fourth wife that went with the man? It's the karma. The karma that we perform, that will not be separated. The impressions are there, and they are going to accompany us. Forgetting our temporary stay in this world, we form many attachments. My house, my car, my wife, my child, my job, my this, my that. And when our earthly visa expires, then what we thought was ours, we have to leave. We cannot take anything with us. So why don't we think about this now? Why wait for death to teach us rudely? It's a very rude way, and that's what stresses us. That's one part of our fear of death. So it's karma that's going to go with us. And remember, karma, listen very carefully. Now I'm coming to the main point. How do we get out of this bondage? Karma causes bondage when we are attached to the temporary. And the same karma proves to be a gateway to freedom when we are able to attach the mind to the eternal. So it's attachment of the mind to the temporary that creates a bondage. And the supreme instruction of Krishna in the Gita, that is the means to attain freedom from bondage. In detail, Arjuna discussed with Lord Krishna what would be the consequences of him not performing his duty and performing its duty. It's all in detail. What I'm telling you today would probably take me days to explain in detail properly, and months for you to understand. I've got a very Herculean task to do. In 2 days, I'm going to tell you about something that you have been puzzled over, struggling over for lives together. So please bear with me, because certain things I have to deal in short. So I'm coming straight to the point what Krishna advised Arjuna to do. He said, this is the gist of the Gita. The main message of the Gita is in half a verse in the 8th chapter, 7th verse. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu ma manusmara yudhya cha. How should we live in the world? at all times and all places, Krishna says to Arjuna, at all times and all places, remember me and perform all your actions, whatever you're expected to do, X, Y, Z. Whatsoever the mind contemplates on, whatever you think, that you attain or you become. Now, if the mind focuses on something negative, you know, the mind becomes negative. If the mind focuses, that's why people, I remember I was in Scotland and there was a teacher who used to work with nurses. Life was very stressful for them, the nurses' life, GPs, pretty much stressful. So they would have tasks and they would be told to think about certain things. I understand. What do you tell them to think about? We tell them to think about a mountain and a spring, the sound of flowing water and the sweet sound of birds, and imagine butterflies. They're taken to nature. So that, because that brings your mind to a state of peace, doesn't it? In the same way, if you contemplate on that Supreme Being, who's the Supreme Being? Satchidananda, bliss, love. We say God is love. So if we focus the mind on that personality, which is bliss or love, then the mind acquires the qualities. Mind acquires that experience of joy gradually. So whilst we do whatever we do, Lord Krishna is advising Arjuna is to fight a battle. That is such a difficult thing to do. But he said, whilst you're fighting this battle of dharma, I want you not to get involved in, he is my enemy, he is my friend, and this is what he did to me. No, that's going to create bad karma. You remember me and do your duty. So in common man's language, it is hands to work and mind to God. This is something we can practice gradually. This is going to liberate us, and that's why the most important verse of the Gita, the conclusion of the Gita, you can check it up, 18th chapter, 66th verse, the final instruction of Lord Krishna to Arjuna. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam braja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shucha. Forget all about the do's and do nots. It can be very binding and you do not know. I want you to surrender to me alone. Surrender is an act of the mind, a mental state, not a physical prostration and recitation of prayers. It's a state of the mind. So surrender to me alone, Arjuna, and I am going to completely liberate you. That backlog of sanchit karma, countless karma, I am going to completely burn that file of yours. Now you will be completely free. So yesterday I was being asked a question, and God is not going to do anything, then what's the point of it? This is what He does. You don't have to go through anything. Just think, what mercy, what grace. Can you find it anywhere in the world? In the world, if you have committed a crime, and you very honestly go to the court and plead to the judge, well, I must admit I have committed that murder. Please, please, please forgive me. I'll never do anything again. I won't even lie to anybody. Please just let me free this time. Next time I lie, you can put me behind the bars for a lifetime. But forgive me this time. I'm admitting. I'm repenting for the crime. Is the judge going to free the guy? No. He'll say, yes, I'm very happy that you've come and admitted your crime yourself. I'll think about it next time when you do something. Next time, you're going to hang me right now. Where's the next time going to come? But in the spiritual court, that government, so merciful that once you, from the bottom of your heart, ask for forgiveness and repent, from the bottom of your heart. And it should not be something for a second and then you go back and do what you want to. We do that. Sham ko khoop si bhi, to bas subah torba kar le. You know, in Christianity they have a system of confessions. So one person went up to the priest and said, I want to confess. Yes, what do you want to confess about, my young man? Well, I have, the boss trusted me with the keys to the locker and I have stolen some money from there. How much did you steal? I stole 200 pounds, but I want to confess for 500. Why? You stole it, 200, confess for 200. Because I'm going to go back and steal 300 more. So in the same way, by confessing and repenting, a surrender, it should be something which is there with you, a mental state, not a temporary state. Many people, atheists I know, who don't believe in God at all, the moment somebody is really sick in the ICU, there they are praying to God, please, please, I'm sorry I didn't believe in you, can you help me out in this? And they're shedding tears, I've seen them. So when we want that, we can shed tears. And after that, about turn, we don't want anything to do with you. So surrender. The moment there is a one-pointed state of surrender, it's a process. The process is learning to perform action that will not bind you. We have to learn that. I told you that bondage comes from attachment. So once that poison of attachment is removed, you can do everything you want, whatever you are doing in the world, but there will be no bondage. Just like you have cameras, right? Things have changed considerably. When I was young, they had cameras with those films inside. Maybe some photographers still do it. They have a special film. It's a photosensitized paper. The moment that paper is exposed to light, there is an image, right? Now, of course, you have those memory chips. That's a different thing. What I'm talking about is that paper. Now, once that is exposed to light, the impression comes, right, on that paper. Now, suppose that camera, you put just plain paper, ordinary paper, and you keep clicking. Will there be an image? No. Because it's plain paper, it's not the special photosensitized paper. In the same way, when that action is without the attachment, then there will be no image. It will be a plain paper, no image. And we are well habituated to perform actions without attachment. We do that all day. All the unwelcome guests, I'm so happy to see you. It's been ages. I keep thinking about you. And what are you thinking? I don't want to see that person. Why is he wasting my time? No attachment. Of course, what I'm saying is we are doing actions of detachment. We do it all the time in the world. But a few places, the grudges, the enmities, the selfish attachments, they make images and they bind us. So we have to learn the art of living in this world. Like Shakespeare said, all the world is a stage and all the men and women merely players. You are living in Shakespeare's country, right? Not far from here, Warwickshire. All the men and women are merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and each man in his time has many parts to play. If we learn how to play a part in this temporary world, eternal world, there is another world. This is temporary. There is one more world, the eternal world, where there is no coming back. That is where we belong. And that's why nothing in the world has satisfied us till today. We have been ministers, we've been prime ministers, we've been millionaires and we've been multimillionaires. But Inside, the mind is stressed, it's restless, because that is not what the soul is hungering for. The subject of the soul is divine, because the soul is divine. And therefore, we are here in this world to do our duty. If we are doing our duty, then attachment part is going to produce an image, and that is going to bind us. The philosophy of the Gita is teaching us that learn to live in the world with your hands to work and mind to God, and then you will be freed. That is the karma that we are here to learn and put into practice, and till we reach our goal, you will find the difference in your life. Because it's attachment that creates stress and pain and suffering. You must have experienced in your life. So, this state of surrender frees us completely from bondage, and that is how karma binds and karma frees. In this human life, it is up to us. We have that freedom of action. This is a blessing, and it can be very dangerous as well. Because with this, you can either move up or you can move down. And going down is easy. Climbing upstairs is an effort, but falling down, no problem. So from human life, it can be animal or it can be divine. We have that privilege. So, Ramakrishna Paramahansa, he puts this state very symbolically how we should be living in this world. Some of you may have read those beautiful words. He says, "Let the boat rest on the water. Let not the water into the boat, lest it be sunk." So karma is bondage when it is attached to the trivial. By focusing our life on the spiritual goal, it will consume all your trivial attachments and desires. You won't even realize, it just happens naturally. Like Vivekananda said, bhakti is love for the highest, and the lowest will fall away by itself. Each concept that I'm sharing with you, mind you, it requires practice. It all sounds very correct, very beautiful, but it requires practice and it requires reminders. Very important thing is a reminder, a thinking. What you have heard, mind you, this is priceless wisdom. Please don't take it lightly. And I can challenge you in the connected way I have talked about karma yesterday and today. You will not find it in any particular book. This is possible only when divine personalities connect all that wisdom. I was saying to you yesterday, so many contradictions. We are free to perform action, at the same time, not a leaf stirred without the will of God. How are you going to reconcile that? You will do what you want to when it suits you, but we need to have the correct philosophy, and that we get from divine personalities who connect all this spiritual wisdom and put it to us in a simplified, logical, and connected way. The reason that it is not easy in the beginning to put all this into practice is because we are so used to the kind of life of attachments and desires and ambitions in this temporary material world. So it requires a constant thinking, a constant association. And that's the reason why I have been coming to this country for almost 20 years. I spend almost 4 or 5 months here. Why? Because those fortunate people who have a desire, who are discontented with the trivial, chaotic state of affairs in the world, they want to know what is the way out. And they need a constant reminder. They need to clarify their doubts, because 2 hours talk over here. In India, I give talks for 20 days at a stretch. So most of the questions are kind of clear and move on. So anyway, I'm here in this country. You all know that. I come here very regularly. You can always come and clarify your doubts, or whether you want to know personally or in a group. It's up to you. But anyway, I'm always there. And with this special precious wisdom, I can assure you that gradually you will have the boat on the water. And not only on the water, it will slowly move to that shore of eternal, everlasting, perfect happiness and love that we are seeking since time immemorial. So with these words, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for having shared these precious gems of spiritual wisdom which I have learned from my great master. He is the 5th original Jagadguru, still living in this world, and his mind is an encyclopedia of the scriptures. Just recently, he still gives talks. He tirelessly teaches. 2 days ago, he gave a talk of 2 hours, and he quoted 185 verses in 2 hours. 185 verses. That means there was no talk. Like there was a talk as well. And along with the 185 verses, he quoted the numbers. Can you do that? No. No human being can do that. And this is something that it's natural with him. And I have had the great grace of learning from him, experiencing through him, and I'm here to share that with you, and I will always be happy to help you. Next time we meet. Boli Vrindavan Bihari Lal ki Jai. Srimad Satguru Sarkar ki